Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly Q&A session. And today is my pleasure to welcome here Coach Cristian. So hi Cristian, how are you today?
Hi, Coach Veronika. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. I was on a little holiday last week, so I'm really refreshed and I'm ready and looking forward to all the questions that are hopefully coming in today. But before that, I have prepared questions that I have found on our channel. So I think we can start with them. Okay, right. We have a question from Kimberly. Hi, can you please tell me how am I supposed to eat or doing anything enjoyable while feeling fear when fear is an emotion that can strip anything enjoyable away from you? And the other part of the question there is, I understand sitting with fear for as long as you can to train the brain, there's nothing to fear. But the emotions sometimes get so intense that all you want is a moment of relief. So, what are your thoughts, Christian?
Well, thank you, Veronica. Well, Kimberly, a couple of things I would say is whenever we're in any kind of a position where we're in fear, our body isn't necessarily thinking about eating or drinking or anything like that. We're kind of more in a defensive mode. Again, this kind of fight or flight. So it makes perfect sense for you to not have any desire to eat or drink anything. I remember when insomnia started for me, there was a lot of fear, a lot of confusion about what was going on. I didn't even know it was insomnia. I thought it was some health scare. And so the idea of eating was not only not even a thought or a concern, but I had no desire whatsoever. And with all that fear, uh, one of the things that happened was within the first 2 months of this insomnia, I ended up losing a tremendous amount of weight. I lost about 40 pounds. So it can definitely have an impact on what we eat, because at the moment the thought is, how do we survive? So it's definitely an uncomfortable feeling or sensation. So the fact that maybe you understand what you're going through can definitely be also comforting. The more we understand it's insomnia based, it's nothing any real health issues that we're dealing with, then we can just kind of be a little bit more kinder and gentle with ourselves, and just know that the body will eat and drink when it needs to, that we don't have to remind it, we don't have to force it, we don't have to do any of that stuff. It'll let you know when it needs to do whatever it needs to do, eat or drink to survive. So that's what I would say. Veronica, any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I have also this kind of like experience that I didn't have this need to eat when I was in basically in fight or flight all the time, and another worry there was what health impact it will have that I don't eat properly. So at some point, I decided that at least every morning I will make some healthy smoothie, some with some fruits, some veggies, and at least I would have this. Because if you think about it, um, when sleep is not the only pillar of healthy lifestyle, it's also healthy eating and physical activity. So if sleep is not really available to us at this moment, just look what you can do in the other areas, in terms of if you can eat something a little healthy every day, or if you can do this little physical activity just like walking. This could be really, really helpful, and it can make you even feel a little bit better. So, and I know that it's hard to find something enjoyable, and for some time it's not going to be available to us. But sometimes, if you right go and welcome some of little enjoyable things, like if you have a cup of cake that you used to like before, or if you just call a friend, it might not bring immediately the emotions of joy, but it can open the gate to, hey, there's a possibility to find something nice and enjoyable during the day. So try to find these little things that can bring you uh, something nice, something positive in the everyday struggle you might find yourself in. So, yeah, and there is also another part of the question that was saying, I understand sitting with fear for as long as you can to train the brain, there is nothing to fear. But the emotions sometimes get so intense that all you want is a moment of relief. So, Christian, what would be a moment of relief in all this struggle? Was there anything on your insomnia recovery journey that you find relief? As a relief?
Um, it's interesting because whenever we talk about emotions or feelings, oftentimes it's recommended to just sit with that feeling. For me, that was helpful, but one thing that was really much more helpful for me, and I hope maybe that might be something of value to you, was I would think about why I was feeling whatever feeling it was, whether it's fear, anxiety, sadness, whatever the emotion. And the moment I started to think about why I was feeling it, for example, regarding insomnia, I was maybe afraid that I wasn't going to sleep that night, or I was afraid that things were the evening was coming, so the darkness was coming. And so why am I feeling anxious? Why am I feeling this fear? And I would realize that it's just a completely normal sensation, a feeling. And I felt like when I got to the root of it, I understood that the feelings that I was dealing with were absolutely normal. And it normalized the situation. And without having to find a solution for it, I would tend to feel less anxiety or less fear about it. So whenever I felt fear, whatever the circumstances was, I would think, well, why am I fearful? And as I would think about, well, this is a scary time that I'm going through. It feels very traumatic. It feels like, again, I think I've explained this or mentioned this before. It's like a car accident. So whenever I would reflect back to this accident, I would feel anxious. I would feel fear. It's like, well, that makes perfect sense why I'm feeling this way. It would normalize things and it would help to kind of feel less of that fear and anxiety. So sometimes finding the root of why we're fearful can normalize things and allow things to pass a little bit, maybe, I don't know, faster, but it's definitely tend to ease the current circumstances that you're dealing with. So,
This is
Veronica?
great. Yeah, this is great. I mean, finding the root cause because I actually heard about this kind of like a method, but I have never really used it. But it's constantly asking why and why and why until you get to the root of
Right.
of the emotion. Why are you feeling like this? Why have you reacted like this?
Right.
And I'm going to surely use it in some of the situations because I think it's really brilliant. Because just like we teach here, when we have the understanding, when we know what and why is happening to us, it gives us this kind of relief. So I absolutely agree with you. And yeah, thank you so much for your answer.
Of course.
Okay, another question that we have is from Kakashi Naruto, and I want to ask a question: is insomnia an illness? So, what do you think, Christian?
Oh, it sure feels like it, right? So again, going back to when things started for me, whenever we start understanding that we're dealing with sleep issues, a lot of the thoughts is, well, it's got to be something medical. There's something wrong with me. It's health scare, health concerns. Then we can, at least in my case, I thought, well, if it's not medical, it's got to be psychological, right?
Mhm.
So it's got to be, quote, some kind of illness, something that's invaded my system that I need to fight. The wonderful moment when I realized that it was none of those things, and it was fear, fear of wakefulness. It gave me a tremendous amount of peace. As a matter of fact, I remember going through a couple of different programs, sleep programs, that not only not they didn't help, but it increased my anxiety and made things a lot worse. So it's put a lot more pressure, a lot more focus and attention on the attempting to sleep, which made things so difficult for me. So the sleep coach school with Daniel was the third program I tried. And once I realized that it had nothing to do with anything other than fear of wakefulness, it was like this wonderful moment, this gift that I received. And I remember going through what we call the honeymoon stage, or the honeymoon phase, where I slept great for like 2 or 3 weeks. I was convinced, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm cured. I still even called it cured. I'm cured.
Yeah.
Uh, and then of course the speed bump came along, but it's very comforting and reassuring, I think, for a lot of people to realize that it's not an illness, that they don't have to find medical relief or assistance or some kind of a solution. And part of the gift is knowing that it's something within ourselves. And if it's something within ourselves, we need to learn how to retrain the brain to not have fear uh, on something that is just a perceived fear. And so, even though that's a difficult journey in itself, it's a tremendous journey of self discovery. Because as we learn to start to retrain the brain and know that there's nothing to fear, we start to learn to deal with a lot of these emotions and feelings that we've been having, fear, anxiety, sadness, depression, all these things. And so, to me, though this thing became a very deep and a difficult struggle, it actually blossomed into a gift or a journey into self-discovery, better understanding, and not only feeling like I didn't have an illness, but I felt like it truly became a gift for me long term. So I don't remember the name of the person that posted the question, but uh, it's a wonderful thing to realize that there's no illness, and this is an opportunity for you to learn how to approach these struggles a much better way. So,
Yeah.
Veronica, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Christian, for your answer. And I don't really have much to add, but maybe something, just the way I thought about it was that it was, during the years of my insomnia struggle, I went from doctor to doctor, and I had all kind of possible examinations done, and they all turned out well. And you know, uh, as weird as it sounds, at some point I got disappointed that they found nothing. You know, like, I mean, I know it's going to sound awful, but I would rather be to have a cancer than insomnia, because when I have something to, okay, something to address, like this is it. I don't care what it would be, but this is it. Then I can look at it straight head on. I can treat it. I can do anything just to overcome this. But if this was something so intangible, something what people and doctors wouldn't even believe me, like, what am I talking about? Like, you can't sleep? How? This is not possible. You just lay down and close your eyes, right? And so it definitely was a challenge. And but I'm so glad also, like, to find Daniel's channel, and he basically answered all my questions, that it's not an illness, it is just the learned fear response, it is just being afraid of nighttime wakefulness. And what we need to do is retrain our brain to find a joy in something we hate so much. And when we teach our brain that the thing that it fears the most, it's not actually so terrible, it will learn that, okay, or basically it allows us to sleep because it doesn't feel threatened anymore.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
wonderful. That's great. I love it.
Okay, so we can answer another question. We got a question from Marco. Hi, Marco. And question from Christian. I have watched 3 times your yesterday's Mind in the Comments video. Thank you very much for your insights. I'm curious to know how long time it took you to come to the acceptance phase. Yeah, so just before, just Marco, just before this recording this video, I was talking to Christian. What a brilliant video he made, and I totally love this. So, yeah, the word is yours.
Well, Marco, thank you so much. That means a lot. Also, Veronica and I were discussing how how difficult it is for me to do these videos. It's really tough. so any support is greatly appreciated. So thank you. So what it was how long did it take for me to come to acceptance? Wow, God,
Hmm.
my goodness. So I think the time frame. So here's one of the things about the insomnia, right? We're taught to not be attached to the outcome. So one of the things that was super helpful was to not keep track of anything. No timelines, no time frame. Whether I have a good night's sleep, bad night's sleep, since there's nothing I can do about it, it's just to let go. And acceptance, gosh, I think I'm still working on that. I'll say it's, maybe 90%. I don't think it's completely 100. I think what complete and total recovery looks like is when we don't think about it at all anymore. And so acceptance is gradual. Like anything that we're learning, it's gradual. And the more we practice it, I no longer, one of the things that I started doing was I no longer started looking at insomnia as a night issue. I started looking at anxiety and fear as something, an emotion that I dealt with during the day and at nights. And so I started implementing a lot of these, not attached to the outcome, kind of letting go during a lot of my daytime struggles. And I noticed that I was very rigid about a lot of things. And so as I started implementing this more of a neutral, not good or bad or pass or fail, it was more of a just whatever thing happened, whatever feelings or experiences I was dealing with, I had more of a neutral approach to it, more of a uh, again, information just coming in and just allowing things to be. I really started noticing improvements with my nights. And so as I would have a difficult night, I realized that there wasn't anything to do. There wasn't anything that I needed to change. There wasn't any more information, but just to accept it for what it was. I referred back to the nights prior to having any insomnia. What would I do or what would I think about? And it really just didn't make a difference. And so the more we can just learn to accept the fact that it's fear, we're retraining the subconscious. How we retrain the subconscious is it has to go through, it has to experience that we are safe. Any rough nights really became more of an opportunity to continue to retrain the subconscious that we're safe. And so acceptance, um, boy, I don't want to put a time frame on it. It definitely takes a while, but as we start letting go, we start to receive the benefits and the rewards of it, which was lot less anxiety during the day, and even better sleep at nights. So I hope that answers your question. And thank you again for your support.
Absolutely, Christian. And I would add my take on this or my experience. And I think there was a breaking point for me. And this was when, of course, naturally, I tried and failed so many times in trying to achieve sleep. But when I started to learn about befriending wakefulness, and my way of befriending wakefulness were kind of like very simple. I just watch TV, and I prefer to watch some kind of a funny show, because it didn't matter how tired or exhausted or angry or frustrated I was. They said something funny, and when they said something funny, I laughed. And this was sending the signals to my brain like, hey, it's not a threat to be awake at night. And as the nighttime approached, I kind of like, I don't remember the day or but I or how when it was in my recovery journey, but I remember the feeling, the moment, kind of like this feeling of surrender. Okay, if I don't sleep, I still can watch TV. So, and with this kind of surrendering to whatever happens, happens, I think that was the point of acceptance. I know I can't control sleep. I know I can't force it. I can't even force acceptance. But from this moment, I think it was getting better and better. Of course, there were ups and downs, but I particularly remember this evening. So,
That's great. That's awesome.
yeah, right. And we have another question from TPA. I stopped taking 1 milligram mirtazapine, 14 days, maximum 3 hours of sleep, couldn't think, got sick, had an accident. I'm sorry to hear that. How to convince mind that sleep isn't important when the body isn't managed to cope with sleep deprivation? Okay, this is a challenging situation. What are your thoughts, Christian?
So let's see how to convince the mind that sleep isn't important when the body isn't managed to cope with sleep depression. So I referred back to one experience I had where I was traveling to go visit my daughter. Hadn't seen her in a long time, and so we had a flight. It was late at night, and the flight kept getting delayed. Long story short, the plane landed the next morning. Nobody got any sleep on that plane that night, and I was reunited with my daughter. I mean, obviously euphoric. I couldn't be happier. That night we went back to the house, the property that we rented, and there was something wrong with the air conditioning. So it was so miserable that night. And once again, most of us didn't sleep. I didn't sleep at all that night either. And then the next day, we got together with my daughter. We spent the day together, and my energy and my focus was so on being reunited with my daughter that those 2 days were I mean, I can still reflect back to them, and there were some of the most beautiful, wonderful days that I had with my family. And I remember at one point thinking, it was late in the evening. We went to dinner. We were driving back home, and I was thinking, maybe we should play a game. Maybe we should do something else. I hadn't slept a wink in 2 days. And I remember noticing that I don't feel tired. I don't feel sleepy. I don't feel anything because my adrenaline was going, and the adrenaline was based on joy. And so the idea of going to sleep was going, or the idea of it being nighttime was not going to be more an inconvenience because I wouldn't hang out with my family that night. I wanted just to keep spending time with my daughter. And that moment was amazing for me because it made me realize that sleep does have an impact on how we feel, of course, right? We're going to feel tired if we don't sleep. We're not going to feel great. But what I noticed is the emotions, the attachments that we have to it. If things are going great for us, it's amazing how we can get by and feel not only good but feel great with little to no sleep. And then I've noticed other days, right? So I put that in a special place in the back of my head to pull that out. Anytime I think that sleep is the make it or break it factor for me to have a good day. And then I thought about other days when I slept great, when maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, my wife and I were dealing with a lot of things that were very heavy regarding our business. And we were exhausted by 11 o'clock in the morning. I mean, we were absolutely exhausted. We were so drained. And so when I took these two experiences and I would relate to them, and I thought, well, what's so heavy about this? Well, the heaviness tends to be the story that we tell ourselves throughout the night. It's that internal struggle. It's that fight. Oh my goodness, if I don't get enough sleep, I'm not gonna be able to perform tomorrow. Right now, pressure to sleep, and then we're telling the story that we're not going to be successful, and so we go through this internal battle all night. And then as the day begins, now we try to reaffirm to ourselves that, well, how can I possibly perform well? I didn't sleep, and so I'm not going to perform very well. And I remember that again. Daniel has a beautiful example when he talks about if we grab somebody, a random person off the streets, and we kept them up all night, asked them the next day, how do you feel? They'd be like, oh, I'm kind of tired. I'm a little sleepy. But they don't tell you the story of this internal fight, of the struggle, these fears, these concerns. And I remember in my college days too, I remember I didn't sleep very much at all. And I remember complaining or even thinking twice about it. And so again, that doesn't mean that not sleeping feels fantastic. It just means that that's not the only thing that can impact our days. And so I really believe that so much of the weight, the heaviness, the pressure that we feel the following day or following days is the weight that we put on the battle. And then how hard we tend to be with ourselves, that we're not performing, that we're not getting it, that we're not doing something right. That can feel very, very heavy. So, Veronica, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It matters so much on our perception, how we see, how we view our not sleeping. And actually, just recently, I became friends with one police officer, and as we were talking, he mentioned like when he's doing night shifts, he rarely has a chance to take a nap, and so he wakes up in the morning, spends his whole day with his family, then he goes into a night shift. And he said, like, very often he's still awake the next day and goes to sleep very often, even in the evening or at midnight the next day, which makes him to be awake for like 40 hours. And, I realized when we spend this time in doing something meaningful, like spending time with our families or working like something that makes sense to us, then also our perception is quite different as when we are trying to chase sleep, when we literally beat ourselves up for not sleeping. And of course, all these difficult emotions arise, and it makes it even more difficult to fall asleep. So you explained it really, really greatly, Christian. It so much matters on the how on the perception, how we view, how we see, how we think about not sleeping, and what you said, what you asked TPA that how to convince my mind that sleep is not important. Sleep is important. I know it may sound that. The message we say to people that sleep doesn't matter. Um, the more important is that we can't control sleep, and we can control sleep. Then let's work on things we can control.
Right.
Right. So this is all I wanted to add, and we have a thank you note from Marco. Thank you for your answers, Christian and Veronica. So glad it resonates. And okay, so we have a question from guess I'm going to mispronounce it, but it's Mishiru. Hi, I'm able to sleep for quite a while, but fear is still there. Even though I don't have problem with sleep anymore, there is this uneasy feeling. What can I do about it? And is this normal? So, Christian, have you ever experienced this kind of a phase, like when you were sleeping, but still you felt uneasy about not sleeping?
So, Mishiro, this may shock you, but I still do. So, like, yeah, is it normal? Absolutely, and plus, I sure hope so, right? So, no, but absolutely, 100%. What happens is whenever we go through any kind of struggle, anything that was very difficult for us, the fear is always going to be there because it's there to kind of protect us, to make sure that everything's okay. And so, what happens with time, even though I'm sleeping great, I've been sleeping very well for a long time. If I had to guess, it's very rare that I have a difficult night or anything like in the past. And so, I really don't have any issues or any struggles. But still, I still have little moments of snippets of fear. The difference is before it was all consuming. Now it's, I would say, more of a like a sprinkling of fear. So very minimal, but I still have moments of a bit of an anxiety or what's going to happen tonight or whatever it is. And so um, I would say that just like a lot of these things that we're dealing with, whether it's sensations, feelings, anxiety, the more we just keep moving forward and just don't put a lot of a heavy response to it or overthink or we don't respond in a way where it can consume us. It'll go with time. It'll fade with time, like anything. I remember I used to struggle with I had back surgery. I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years. And again, I don't even know exactly how long ago, right? 10 could be 15 years ago. And so I struggled with back issues for many, many years. And I can say for the last 6 or 7 years, I haven't had any back issues whatsoever. but I never paid any attention to it because there was really not much I could do about it. And so, what'll happen with this fear, with this, residual fear that you have of not sleeping or a little bit of anxiety at nights before you go to bed, it's going to go away sooner or later. And the less attention we give it, the better off we are. So my focus is never to really think about what's happening. Whenever I do feel a little bit of fear or anxiety or any
Mm.
thoughts that come to mind, I generally think about, well, is that normal? It's completely normal. Something very difficult happened, and it would make perfect sense to still have little moments to think back at it. So uh, not gone completely. When will they be gone? Who knows? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It'll happen one day. Just don't pay too much attention to it. That's
Right.
what I was. Veronica, what about you?
Absolutely. I totally can relate to this uneasy feeling. And, what came to my mind when I read this question was one of the teachings that Daniel has, and it's sleep is not a cure for insomnia. And it was kind of like a big aha moment for me. Like, because we do have people who can sleep basically through the night, but they still fear insomnia. And this is like, just like, aha, it's all about the fear. It's not about the sleep, it's about the fear. And what you need to acknowledge here is the fear, is the uneasy feeling. How does it feel in your body? Connect to it, acknowledge it, and allow it to be there. And just like you said, Christian, it will go away as long as you don't make any bigger problem from this, right? So uh, sleep is not a cure for insomnia, and just acknowledge your feelings, and yeah, it will be easier and easier. Cool. We are almost at the end of our Q&A today, but we still can we have a question from TTT 1994. So it's a bit longer one, so let's start. Hello, I struggle with intrusive thoughts along with insomnia. My worst thought is if I don't sleep, it might cause psychosis. Is there any evidence that it's possible? Any studies on that? And this fear has come from my first postpartum doctor telling me if you don't sleep in 4 days, it will cause psychosis. These words were what started my sleep anxiety and forever traumatized me. That's how my insomnia started. Doctor repeated all the time that good sleep is crucial for my recovery, and that put me under the pressure. I'll start because I totally can relate to these kind of fears and all these unhelpful advice to new moms. And it's not uncommon that women get this advice: sleep as much as you can, sleep when your baby sleeps, and all these unhelpful advice, they just cause a lot of pressure for us to sleep. When we when we had this pressure to sleep, the sleep becomes elusive because sleep is a passive process. The more we are trying to chase it, the less it's likely that we get it, right? So I'm really sorry that you have this experience. What's that basically your doctor was scaring you and telling you that you'll get psychosis. But even if I don't give you any papers telling you that you don't get it, we have countless of uh, proofs here on the channel that people were not sleeping in consecutive days. For me, it was very common to have 4 or 5 all-nighters each night. And what I would say is that like completely not sleeping is basically not impossible. It's well researched phenomena. It's after like I think 48 hours, your brain produces sleep, or I would say that our brain takes what it needs to this minimum amount of sleep that needs for the next day to function. And also, it's well studied that uh, despite we feel alert and that we can notice everything what is going on around us. Like, for example, I felt so hyper vigilant that I could hear a pin drop in the next room, or I was super sensitive to light that I had to black out all the LED lights in my room despite I was wearing an eye mask. And but um, that said, it doesn't really, and I lost my thought. I'm sorry. uh, I was basically so hyper vigilant, and this is so normal, but still, the sleep is happening, right? And you are getting at least the light stages of sleep despite knowing what is going on. And later on, as I became a sleep coach, I was kind of like um, monitoring myself, like, what does it feel like to sleep and still not to sleep at the same time? And I remember one particular evening, I was already in my bed with my baby boy, and my husband was in the bathroom, and he uh, and I felt like I was kind of like falling asleep, but I still can literally be aware what is going on. But when my husband came to the bedroom, I felt like coming up from somewhere below. I can't describe this, but it felt like aha, this is this moment. Like, I'm already getting some sleep, despite I'm aware of my surroundings, right? So this is just one of my experiences, and it's maybe helpful to explore within yourself, like, or to find the evidence when you really do sleep, because or it's very helpful when you have a partner, someone in your household who can really tell you, hey, you snored here a little bit, or you really have this evidence, oh, I slept here a little bit. Because with these little moments of when we slept, then this gives us this confidence, hey, I really can sleep, there's nothing wrong with me. I mean, and when we have these little pieces of sleeps here and there, you can get, of course, better chunks of sleep here and there. And from there, you get to the full night of sleep. But until then, it might be too much to ask for a full night of sleep. So find this little evidence where you sleep, and it will get better with time. What are your thoughts, Christian?
Yeah, I think that that question gave me a little bit of anxiety thinking back to when I started going to doctors and they were telling me, gosh, I don't remember exactly, but they talked about health concerns, health issues. I even had somebody mentioning that, people die if they don't sleep. I
Oh
thought,
my goodness.
great. So like, no pressure to go to sleep, and then I went down this rabbit hole. I was watching this podcast, and this sleep expert was talking about how if we didn't get at least 7 hours of good solid sleep every single night, we will become susceptible to dementia and cancer. And I was like, great. So now I'm gonna not sleep, have insomnia, and then I'm gonna get dementia and cancer. And that's when we go down the rabbit hole. That's when the fear, the anxiety, and the panic, and there's no way you're going to have any kind of sleep with that excessive amount of pressure. And then the brain's going to monitor: are we asleep? Are we sleeping? And then even if we get some sleep, it's like, well, we didn't get enough sleep, so we're gonna, yeah, psychosis. That is horrific. I'm so sorry to hear that. Um, that's terrible. And so, yeah, again, I think I mentioned this before, but one of the things that was so incredibly comforting was to know that there is no correlation between lack of sleep, not sleeping, and any kind of an illness. As a matter of fact, I remember I had a call with somebody who has had insomnia for over 50 years. And one of the things that I asked is, I said, if you were to give me an average of what you've been sleeping, what do you think that is a night? And she said, oh, between 2 to maybe even 5 hours. And I was like, well, that's not too bad. She goes, oh no, that's a week. That's about a week. And I thought, okay, well, horrible insomnia for 50 plus years. And you seem pretty healthy. So we went over, no health concerns. And so there's so many calls from people that we get where they've had insomnia 10 years, 15 years, whatever. pretty horrific stuff, and there's really no health issues or concerns in so many of the cases. So the idea of not sleeping for 4 days, I can tell you so many times where I got zero sleep for 3 days, and as far as I can, I can tell I'm not dealing with any type of psychosis whatsoever. So yeah, I'm sorry, that's pretty scary information. I'm glad you were able to jump on and get some more accurate information about this. So hopefully they don't have to have that anxiety or that fear of this anymore. So
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Christian, and I hope this answers has resonated with our follower. And yeah, Christian, thank you so much for joining me today. I thank you everybody for posting your questions, and I'm going to see you all the next week. So take care, everybody. Bye.